Well, it says it's live, Susan.
Hey, there it is. It's live. Hello, and welcome back to Thirsty Thursday. This week we have a bunch of stories, as usual, about the hits and misses in the marketing world, and there's especially entertaining ones because we're all about that
Hmm.
not boring content, right, Will?
Oh yes, you are very. You will see, folks, the random mix of stories we have planned for you this week. Why don't we start off, Susan, with our regular top of the episode segment we like to do, which is podcast wars, where it's either some news in with the world of podcasting or just something that we really liked or something we didn't like. So, I was digging around. I saw that they've announced that Friday Night Lights, which is kind of now has a cult following. It was a early 2000s football town drama that lots of people liked, and a lot of people started watching it even after it was off the air. Well,
Yeah,
they're doing what some other series and beloved series are doing, is they're doing a podcast where two of the past stars of the show get together and relive each episode, telling you the scoop, the dish, the gossip, behind the scenes moments. These types of podcasts are very, very popular. Why do we, the fans, love it? Well, we get to hear like sometimes some scandalous stuff that we didn't know. So it feeds that fan love and reminds fans about loving the show. And why
yeah,
do the shows want to do this, Susan? Why do the shows want to do this? Because streaming, these popular shows now live forever, and they can find a whole new audience or bring back your audience and like make lots of money from people continuing to watch the show. So this makes so much sense, having these podcasts with the stars we love, going
yeah.
through each episode. 90210 did one with Tori Spelling and Jenny Garth. I know One Tree Hill did one. A lot of I think West Wing did one. There's a lot of shows doing this now, and it totally makes sense. And I'm here
hmm
for it. What about you?
It's all about the repurpose, right? I mean, why not?
Mm-hmm.
It gives you access to a whole other audience, and it brings back the nostalgia for the rest. And so I think it's great. Um,
Awesome.
so from there, let's pop over to um, a story. We love our sporting stories around here, don't
We're
we?
so sporty.
Um,
Yes.
we're so sporty. So the Maple Leafs apparently are obviously trying to change their narrative on a few fronts because they've had a shite season. They've had several shite seasons, and as it comes up again, they had something which this is not the first time they're doing it. Is what I'm thinking. They call it like a marketing day, and in it, apparently, well, you'll appreciate this. They had some of the crisis comms 101, because while
Mm-hmm.
this is an opportunity for us to look behind the scenes and see what it is that the players are up to and all of that kind of stuff, usually right now this is very like, oh, today was terrible, we're really sorry about that, but there's nothing we can do about that. Here's
Mm-hmm.
what we plan to do moving forward. And apparently they kept repeating that message, like
There had
regardless
been
of.
some good media training done there for those players in preparation for this day of interviews. Yes.
Yes.
Um,
So
and
yeah.
it's interesting, Susan, because it's like Toronto, like they're always going to fill Maple Leaf Gardens. Toronto hockey fans will always love Toronto. At the same time, they will always continually be disappointed by Toronto. So I think this really, it sounds like this whole day was like, if what happened happened, but we're hopeful. Like the message of hope is there, Maple Leaf fans. So believe it if you want.
Yeah, the message of hope is there. It's, people are arguing that this is the one team that doesn't need any marketing. You don't, you're already pretty high profile, and perhaps it's time to have some
Mhm.
substance to the
Yeah.
thing.
Well, one of
Uh,
the I read in that article, Susan, one thing I saw was they said it's basically the same team that disappointed in the playoffs a few months ago. There's no major changes, and sorry, sports fans, I could be wrong here, but I think that's what it said in the article. No major changes. So they thought, well, it's the same team that just kind of bombed, unexpectedly bombed in the first round of the playoffs. So let's do some image rehabilitation of this same group of
right.
gentlemen who are playing. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh well. From there on to another person who's got some
Ugh.
some
We always we always seem to
publicity
talk about
issues.
him. Yeah. 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 Go ahead, Susan.
So yeah, so Zuckerberg, he's Facebook is in the news again. Like you said, this has come up on Thirsty Thursday pretty much like every week. We've been talking about something to do with Facebook, and we're like, yes, we know it's dodgy, we know it's unethical, and now it seems like more and more evidence is coming to light that this is not just lack of action in a positive and ethical direction, but instead it's like covering up and propaganda and a whole lot. So why don't you tell people a little bit of the detail of that, Will?
It's another thing of like a lot of people get their news from Facebook, the Facebook news feed. And they keep their algorithm quite closely guarded on how they decide what to do, and more so lately than ever. So Facebook's taken a beating in the media a lot. Well, It sounds like Zuckerberg has approved a plan. They're calling it what? Project Amplify, where basically bad news stories about Facebook will be deprioritized in the feed. Good ones will be amplified in your feed. This is just, again, it's them trying to take control of your image. I was reading how Facebook used to, when all these things came out about them, they'd be like, here's our statement, we're sorry. Well, I think they're done with that. They're doing the whole hide the bad, amplify the good, and they've restricted even more access to their numbers and data and all of that information. Like academics who requested, journalists who requested, it's harder and harder to get that. So the propaganda.
What's up with the people? Tell me if I'm being old-fashioned here, Will, but like, aren't we not supposed to call things about ourselves things like Marketing Day and Amplify? And it's like, it seems like terribly obvious. It's like a child trying to fix a problem here. Like, Yara would be smoother, is my opinion.
Yeah, that's true. I didn't realize that we were starting off with two stories about some serious image control. Different ways of approaching it, of course. But yeah, I mean, I'm not surprised Facebook didn't do this sooner, right? So yeah.
All right. So from there, we go to a fun little story about. You probably, let me share the screen for those who are watching this. This was a publicity stunt that was pulled by an agency in Charlotte. And they basically, there was a big game on in the Bank of America stadium at that time, and this truck with this message on it which said, don't get vaccinated, and the truck seemingly belongs to a funeral home. And it's like, it seems like an anti-vaxxer message, but when you look more deeply, it's a funeral home. So they're telling you that, don't take a vaccine and die. And we await this wonderful little event should it happen. It turns out, let me just show you a couple of things over here. It turns out if you actually click on that Wilmore Funeral Home, it takes you to this website, which has very little on it. And if you click it and click the get vaccinated soon, and it says if not, see you soon. Sorry, getting vaccinated now. It goes into a healthcare website, which is their local sort of provider called StarMed, and it essentially helps you get information on the vaccine and book a vaccine, and the whole 9 yards over there. So I thought this was a genius move. I thought it was very, very clever.
Very funny.
It's by an agency, which I thought was also very brave, to go ahead and do that on your own without actually attaching it to a specific client or an account or something. Because it appears that StarMed, who are the healthcare people, they did not endorse this, nor did they ask for it. This was not their stunt, but they are a social media account that educates people regularly, and they have pretty strong get vaccinated messages. So they seem on board. They support this. So the head of that enterprise spoke about it, and they were like, we didn't commission this, but this is great. That said, on the flip side, there are a couple of academics and psychologists who are getting involved and saying that this is more just clever marketing, which probably isn't going to do a whole lot, because if you're an anti-vaxxer, things like this are probably going to further consolidate your thoughts on the subject.
Yeah, maybe this agency it's just fed up because it's way worse in the States, the anti-vaxxers, right? So probably just fed up and wanted to troll and piss off some anti-vaxxers. They knew they're not going to change their mind, but let's have a little fun, piss you off, show you what we think of you. Maybe it was just that.
Yeah. But you know what? For what it's worth, I think it's interesting when people take these stances like that, and like something to cut the clutter. We're all about that. So like do the thing that will cut the clutter a little bit, and then
get noticed, like we're talking about this agency. So there you go.
Yeah, exactly. And smartly they took the photo of the truck right outside their agency with the name on it. So that was well done.
Good job. Way to go.
Good timing overall. From there on, we're moving into the story about the realities of missing white women.
Yeah, so we've all heard, and the news media, a lot of us, private detective sleuths have all been obsessed with this Gabby Petito story, the young woman who went missing and her body's now been found. The boyfriend, I think he's still in hiding. Anyways, it's a whole big story. I won't get into it. But I hadn't heard this term, and I'm glad that this now has evolved to a discussion about this missing white women syndrome. It was a term coined by a PBS news anchor Gwen Ifill back in the early 2000s about the obsession, the attention, the white woman or girl who goes missing gets. It's like national crazy obsession news media, whereas there's thousands of Indigenous, Black, people of color, girls and women who have gone missing over the past year as well. I pulled one stat from the article there. In the US, Indigenous women make up 2% of the population, yet Indigenous women and girls are murdered at 10 times the rate of other ethnicities. Murder is the third leading cause of death for Indigenous women in the United States. That's just one of many stats this author put together to show how we unproportionately pay attention to when it becomes like people are like TikTok had all these TikTok sleuths for like days going through, and it was crazy.
Right.
I was so glad to see this conversation happening because even like the liberal media, who you would think would be like more sensitive to this, but it's not to diminish what's happening to Gabby and to what happens to anyone, right? But it's very, very unfair that so many other women and girls have been murdered and we don't even bat an eye really. And so
Right. Yeah, it is kind of like a little bit obvious the difference between the approach to one and the next, and I'm glad, like you said, that it's coming into the open. People are calling this out. We were talking earlier before we got started how this kind of thing is very like kind of like that all lives matter things, like when someone says Black Lives Matter and then someone comes in and says all lives matter. Well, yes, and now all lives are not in danger, but Black lives are actively being hunted. So so that I think sometimes it's moments like this where there's an active call out that your eyes open.
Exactly. What are we moving on to now next?
We're moving on to Rosemary Barton.
Oh yeah. So did you watch election coverage like I did on Monday night? So in Canada here, folks, if you're not Canadian, we had our election on, was it Monday or Tuesday? I'm blanking now. Monday.
Monday.
And Rosemary Barton, she anchored the show for CBC, our national broadcaster. She is amazing. She is very, very smart. She can make the jokes. She can take on an authoritative figure and call them out. She was just so good. And my friends and I were all texting being like, go Rosie, so good. Well, if you take a look at her Twitter feed, and this article bravely points out that she bravely stays on Twitter when many news figures in the media are leaving it because of the vitriol and hate. People are awful and mean, and often it comes down to about her being a woman, about her looks, not being pretty enough in the stereotypical way. A lot of this hate, and CBC, this article points out that if you ever thought broadcast news is not relevant anymore, look at CBC and the record amount of hate, reactionary hate they got, obviously from the right. The right has notoriously been a little anti-CBC. They think it's more liberal, but this hatred and this vitriol is like, it's even in Canada, it's building. You hear it. And I can only imagine what Rosie and other women in the news go through daily if they do choose to engage in social media. It just shocks me. She is amazing. And she, like, God forbid she interrupts a man who's older than her, like that's the kind of shit she hears, so anyways,
she's awesome. I find her riveting. Like I sometimes I switch channels and watch other things, but on election night, I'm like, nope, I'm gonna watch. I have time for you and you alone. I love her control of people, how she brings them back without interrupting, and she's quite stellar. And it irritated me. Sorry, go ahead.
No, you go ahead. Sorry, it irritated
you.
So
Canadian. This is the most Canadian recording ever. No, I was saying that, it saddened me to see that some of the stuff was like, oh, how she looks and what she wore and, how her hair, like, come on, people.
No, for sure. And she, in addition to everything you're saying, as someone who like wants a little entertainment from my political shows, she gives it to us. She'll make a joke. You see the rapport she has with a lot of the guests. It's great. So anyways, we're obviously Team Rosie. And people need
Yep.
to grow up and not be such evil people. Oh my gosh, this next story, come on, this is gonna be a good one. Oh, this, I forgot we're doing this one. This is purely something I was thirsty for. Yesterday, my friend Kieran sent me this link, and I said, this maybe made my week. I loved Joan Rivers. I love Kathryn Hahn. They've just announced they're going to be doing a Showtime series called The Comeback Girl about Joan Rivers, starring Kathryn Hahn, who's also producing. I think it's just building on this year. Jean Smart won the Emmy for lead actress in a drama for Hacks, where they called her playing like a Joan Rivers type. Established comedian. So I was like, maybe they're going to dive into a Joan story. So I was very happy about this. I'm not sure if you were a Joan Rivers fan like I was.
Huge Joan Rivers fan.
Yeah.
And I was very disappointed when a tweet went out after she died with something funny that she said, and I was like, damn it, you ruined that for me. She was perfect until that minute.
Someone didn't go through those automated tweets and revise or figure it out.
The perils of scheduling, right?
Yeah. Not even death is going to keep that woman from making a joke. Yes.
Nope. But I also loved that the jokes were premeditated and previously scheduled, very organized.
Yes. Well, if you ever saw that documentary they did 10 years ago or so, she had this old, like, the library card system where you'd go in and look up library cards, and I forget what that thing was called before things were electronic. She had this giant drawer of alphabetized jokes, and for one of the scenes she just went in and she'd randomly pull a joke out, and it was really, really funny. Yeah.
See, this is such a great point for people who are like, oh, I'm not funny, I would never try to do that. Well, nobody who's funny just like is funny from the top
all
of
the
their
time.
head. Yeah, sure they have some tendency towards seeing the humor and things, but you know what, the best comics practice their little hearts out. So
Oh yeah.
Okay, on to then, the last of our stories. This is
a good
super
one.
fun. This is a good one.
Yeah.
So so Annie Murphy is Annie Murphy, by the way, is Alexis Rose on Schitt's Creek, for those who don't recognize the name. She has a new ad where she's talking about women's vaginas. Do you want to tell the people what happened?
It's basically the ad starts like you're going into a vagina. I don't know how else to say it. It's basically we're going inside Annie Murphy's vagina, and the ad is about a hormone-free birth or contraceptive gel. And in the ad, she talks, while we're inside her vagina with her, she talks about, and it looks glamorous and lovely and everything. She talks about all the benefits, like the no hormones, the contraceptive gel has no hormone type thing. And then you see her getting ready for her night of fun. And then you see her with a chainsaw trimming the bush on the outside, like it's a rose bush. You see her getting all dressed up and ready. And she says, the best part about the contraceptive gel is you only have to apply it when you're having a friend over. And then the doorbell rings and she looks over at the camera with a little wink and says, coming. Like, it's just, the innuendos are fun. It's cute. It's Annie Murphy. Yeah, I thought this was a fun way
I'm going
to end the show.
For those who are watching, I'm going to play this for a few seconds. You probably won't hear it, but you'll get the vibe. So hold up.
Yeah. Oh, also, and as it's playing too, this is her inside her vagina. It's an all-woman creative team, so it's checking all the boxes for female empowerment and that sort of thing.
Very cool. I like this.
Yeah.
Here's the start of it, which I thought was
the start of it is, this is funny. This is how the ad starts, and this will appear nationally, folks. There we go.
That's very cool.
Yes, very fun.
Yeah, so that's it, folks. You
Susan,
have. Sorry, did we miss something?
I wanted to add one thing I didn't tell you about. But everyone, there by this director Goose Tison, Tijssen. He's created a really funny take on adults going back to the office. And it's the reverse. It's the kids. It's the little girls walking the dad who's all worried. He's got his lunch and she's giving him the pep talk, dropping him off at the office. Then when she picks him up from the office, all the other parents are coming out to their kids. And he excitedly shows her, like, look, I got to take meeting notes. And she's like, good for you, Dad. It's really adorable. We'll try to put a link in there. I couldn't find who did it or who it was for, but it's a really cute ad. So there we go. One last tidbit there for you.
Yeah, so that's it. This week's Thirsty Thursday, everything from from, repurposed podcasts to Annie Murphy's vagina and children dropping off their parents and everything in between.
There's your headline. There's your headline. Yeah.
All right. Bye, Will.
Bye, everybody.